I saw that even in adversity, even in frustration, in anger, and in disappointment, if we listen to people and if we actually give them what they need and not what we want them to have, that they're willing to work with us. 6 months after being the listing manager, I said, okay, I'm going to go and get my license, but not so I could sell. It was just so that I could give better service to our buyers and sellers because, once you're licensed, you can say different things.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today, I have another special guest. He's a facilitator for the upcoming One Coast RE Bar Camp, January 26th here in St. Augustine. He trains minority-owned businesses to increase revenue quickly and efficiently. He has been an owner broker of the world-renowned real estate for nearly a decade. He's also a professional speaker and graduate of Troy University. He has a YouTube channel that is full, which I recommend everyone to go check out. And he's consistently adding content on there about real estate, management, leadership, marketing, and more. Let's welcome Neal Oates Jr. to the show.
Excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited about this group that Kim has put together for the RE Bar Camp. I was going through everyone's bio there. Obviously, quite a few will be on the show. You're number 3. I've got scheduled up all through next week. So I'm really interested in learning a little bit about each of you because you're bringing a lot of great, just a lot of great background, a lot of great experience to the RE Bar Camp, and everyone attending should be excited about the facilitators this year.
Yeah. So we a great group. I know that Kim and her team, they really think about the audience. They think about everyone. And so it takes a lot of intentionality on their part, but I know it's always an honor and a privilege to be a part of it.
Yep, for sure. So as I kick off every show, so everyone gets a little bit to know about you, Neal, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And then what led you to Troy?
So I am originally from Florella, Alabama, a small town, 1,100 people. We did have a couple of stoplights. I know some of your guests were from places where they didn't have stoplights, only stop signs, no restaurants. So we were a little bit larger than that. But I ended up at Troy on a football scholarship, had some other opportunities, but I decided to go to a place that was an hour and 15 minutes away from home, close enough so that my mom and dad could attend all of my home games.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm working with my son now, basketball, and that time goes fast. And those memories of, my parents sitting on the bench there watching a game, whether I played or not, they were there, and how important that is in the life cycle, and again, to play collegiate level ball and then be able to go see your son and daughter. I'm sure that was a great privilege for them and memories, I'm sure, for you. So you're at Troy. What kind of vision did you have at that time? Like what you wanted to do for a career?
So I knew exactly what I was going to do because originally I had never planned on going to college. The plan was my father, he was a Navy man. He was in the Navy. And when he got out of service, he opened up a plumbing and electrical company. And so he did that for a number of years and even did it on some Air Force bases down in Eglin, at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. And so my plan was to go to trade school and to pick up and carry on the family business, right? To get in there, work with my hands. But then when I got noticed for being decent, being good enough to play college football, and they were going to pay for my school, I decided to, I had a conversation with my parents and said, do we take the route that we originally planned, or because opportunities have presented themselves, do we go this route? And so went to school, but I still knew that everything was to run the family business. That was the goal. So I went into business management so that I could maybe shore up the things that my dad was great at with the skill set, but maybe didn't have the business acumen. And so that was the plan. But then as you go through, you start seeing other opportunities, more conversations with what I would call my very first mastermind, having my brothers and my parents, and then just making decisions, maybe that were better in the long run, but required some sacrifice up front.
I would, because there's other things you learn in college too. And I had Jake Dixon, who, briefly played professional baseball, but played collegiate baseball here at UNF in town, University of North Florida. Just to touch on your colleagues, since we're talking about college, and you mentioned obviously you played football, work dealing through adversity. And I'm kind of jumping forward a little bit in our conversation, but since we're talking about college and you were playing ball there, your seasons of playing athletics right up through, Troy, and obviously the adversity, whether it's getting out there in August and you're two a days and you're, with all your gear on and, sweating and going, why am I doing this? To losing a game how important is it that are, because I think unfortunately our young people aren't getting those experiences that you and I had or Jake had enough. And putting our kids in those situations, whether it's sports or other situations where they are dealing with a little bit of adversity, maybe some failures, didn't got cut from a team, whatever. How important is it and how has it played in your overall looking, back on your entire career, how you leaned on some of that stuff like, hey, if I can make it in August, two a days and 110-degree heat, I can do this.
Well, I absolutely think it's vital. And it's not just me. I mean, if we really look around, and when I say look around, I mean really look around and see where we are, because children, young people who don't go through adversity, who don't know how to handle challenge, become adults who don't know how to handle challenge. It's not like just because we aged immediately, we're going to be able to handle this thing. When we fail, when we lose as a child, I believe that it made me to be the person who I am, having parents who allowed me, who encouraged me first to try everything I wanted to try. And then when I wanted to quit halfway through, they said, no, you're going to stick out your commitment. And then once you finish, you can not resume the next season. But in that, just making sure that I knew that there were going to be some hard times, that I was going to fail. Some of my biggest and best lessons, whether it was from an early childhood, even to now as an adult, has come because I lost. And so here's something, Tracy, I know that we don't like saying. We don't like admitting that there are losers, right? So sometimes, not as a person, but when it comes to a competition, someone loses. You might lose a listing. You might lose a negotiation. You might lose a client, but we have to figure out how we're going to respond to that. And so I had some big time losses simply because I went to Troy when it was still Troy State University, when we were making the transition from 1AA to 1A. This is before the FCS, FBS, all of that. And so when we were there, Troy's goal the first year that I was there was to make money so that we could transition, so it would be a little bit easier. That means the first game of the season, my freshman year, we go to Nebraska, Cornhuskers, 80,000 in the stands. And we're sitting there like, oh my gosh. And we had to find a way to play and know that we were going to have adversity. Their second and third team was as in depth as many players as our entire team was, right? And so this is where I think that very early on, we figure out, is this thing for us? Are we going to be someone who can be met with challenge, who can lose, and then who can pick up and resume and play again, knowing, now here's the hard part, knowing that after a loss, if there's a possibility for you to lose again and again, and how many losses is it going to take before you give up? Or are you going to say, I'm tired of this and let me figure out a better way? And so fortunately, I've had great coaches, great teammates, a great ecosystem that has allowed me to prosper and thrive through all of those losses.
That's an awesome story there in a nutshell. Now I'm going to twist it on you because I want you to, because you have a team, world renowned. Obviously, I assume you are regularly trying to recruit. People come and go in real estate. How do you take this coaching training that you're doing now, and when you have those agents who have that adversity, have been told no, or have gone, 3 or 4 months to kick off their career and haven't got a closing yet, how do you coach them? What are some of the things that taking your athletic background and so forth? I know we've been faced in the dirt and then, picked back up again. Someone's there to pick it up. How do you pick them up?
So the very first thing, and this is from personal experience and, just playing alongside some great teammates and having great coaches, we're always reminded why we got started, why we're in this thing, right? So for me in my athletic career, it was because was what was going to pay my way through school so I could come out of school with no debt so that then I could lead my company's, my family business. Okay. So when I'm talking to an agent, and they're going through these heartaches and heartbreaks and headaches and fails and trials, I want to remind them of why they got started, why they got into this thing. And unfortunately, if they got in for the wrong reason, and we hear about the why all the time, but if that is not big enough, strong enough, then they're not going to get through that 4 months. They're not going to persevere when people are telling them no, when they're getting hung up on or the deals fall through and the commission, the compensation that they were counting on disappears, right? And so I think that's why even before we get started and as I'm coaching and walking people through this thing, I start with, why are you doing this thing? If you are doing it for a quick buck, it's going to be a challenge. There are easier ways to make more money. There are easier ways to make more money than to deal with people. But if you want the possibility, if you're here in this thing, and if you have what it takes, because I do believe that this industry we're in, I think it's a fantastic industry, but it's not for everyone. It takes a special person. It takes certain characteristics and qualities. And so if they don't have that, then I can't coach that or train that. However, if it's in there, if that drive is there, we can remind them of it and then pull them through simple techniques, like make sure that we focus on the activity more than the result. We are a result focused society. I need to see something I need to see. However, I said, well, did you make your phone calls this week? If we've been in the industry for any amount of time, we know it's all about lead generation, lead conversion. Did you generate the number of leads? Did you make the contacts? Did you get out and network? If they do those things, then law of averages, there are some laws that just cannot be broken. If your skills are where they should be, then we know we're going to get good results. It might not be in the time that we expected, but we can if we persevere, if we don't quit, if we don't give up. I just believe, and so far I've been proven right, that good things are going to happen.
Yeah, there's do you think the typical person coming into this industry, I've had a lot of top people that have come in and of course, last 2 or 3 years, they just got it right away, had a great mentor, stepped in the right direction and everything was golden. And then, we have others that, I've had others that have been, been in the business longer and they had some trials and tribulations and get put forth. But do you think the average person that comes in realizes that first day that really, I don't know, you may have it at 70, 80% of what they do is actually that networking, marketing, getting their name out?
No one gets into real estate to talk to people, right? No one gets into real estate we get into real estate because we want to make money. Now, we might want to help people, right? But we're not going out and volunteering at a charity, right? We're getting into this thing because of the possibilities and the opportunities. And unfortunately, I just don't believe that the system is set up to prepare us mentally or emotionally what to expect that first 3 months, that first year, because that's stuff that's not taught. Now it's mentioned, but it's not taught. Like for instance, mental stability, when you come in and you have pressures all around you, bills and responsibilities and family members, and you have no solid answer for them. And so then we start doing things out of urgency and emergency and not out of a system or process. So I don't think that any of us, and unless you mentioned it just a few minutes ago, Tracy, unless you have a mentor, you come in and you have someone who's going to prepare you. And I'm not saying, oh, it's going to be hard out here, and then they walk away, right? They say there are going to be challenges, but here's how we get over those things. If you have a question, call me. If you need to walk alongside, if you find a success partner, these types of things. But right now, unfortunately, we have forgotten what makes us successful in this business. We think that it's the next shiny, sexy deal. We don't remember that it's relationships, that it's going out, having people know us, like us, trust us, that we have to interact with people. And if we keep forgetting that, then we are going to be obsolete. And there's always going to be someone who can turn the dial, who will go back and do these little small proven things and then just add a touch of what's relevant right now, and they're going to win.
So we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back on script now. So you graduate from Troy. You expected to go into the family business. What leads you into real estate?
So first, what led me into real estate was that my dad and my mom, they told me, nope, you were not going to run a family business. Your dad, he is retiring. We're going to shut that down. You have a different set of skills that we need to utilize. And I love people. I like interacting. And so this was one of those things where I really had to listen to wise counsel. Right. I mentioned that my parents and my family were my first mastermind. So I just believe that there are people who will see in you what you can't see in yourself, what you might take for granted. And so they told me, you have the gift and the ability of sales, of networking, of communication. So I found the first sales job I could, and that was at Rent-A-Center, right? Just renting out TVs and couches and the such. And so I was there for a couple of years. And then a gentleman from Terminix, because I don't know if you know this, oftentimes the pest control and the Rent-A-Center pieces, they would overlap, right? So you would see a lot of people at Rent-A-Center and then Terminix, we're right next door. And so he would see me just rising up the ranks and the number of units that I had on borrow. And the manager came over and said, I think that we can do better. And so worked at Terminix for a couple of years. And then I'm doing wood destroying organism inspections, WDO reports for a real estate agent here in South Florida. And he says, Neal, you're too sharp to be crawling under houses. You shouldn't be going in attics. You should be selling these houses. And Tracy, I'll tell you, my one professional regret is that he said, come to my office tomorrow during your lunch break. I went to his office at lunch and I never went back to Terminix. So I kept their metal clipboard and their measuring wheel because that was the first step, right? And so that's when my eyes opened to what possibilities were. But it's all because I listened to wise counsel. I've always had people around me that I knew loved me, cared about me, and knew more than me. And if I had those people around and if I listened to them, that's how I got into real estate, because someone said, you have a different set of skills. You could be better. And my drive, my desire to be the best brought me into an environment where now I'm utilizing everything that I've had since an early age.
Wow, that is an incredible story. And I look back, reflect back on my life of 53 years, and I do believe things happen for a reason, and obviously that graduation that you took from Rent-A-Center to Terminix, and then meeting the different people, I'm sure the adversity of crawling under some of those houses or up in attics or whatever in the heat of the summer, and put you through to go, oh, real estate. When you walked in that office, and I'm sure they felt the nice air conditioning, and everyone was dressed nice, and it just, you're like, yeah, and I'm not going back. I could see that is just an amazing inspirational story. So tell us a little. So you were there. Sounds like you have a mentor right away. Am I right? Is this gentleman now mentoring you, getting you kicked off in your business?
Absolutely. So I came in as their listing manager, right? So this was early 2007. So I didn't get to make any of the boom money, but I was in an environment where there was activity. And so I'm working under him and he and his partner. And so I just got to see real estate at a very high level very quickly. And so the challenge was that the type of clients that we were dealing with, they owned properties, but we would carry listings. So 2007 through 2009 or 10, we were in a situation where we carried listings for 18 months with no offers. And so very early on, as the listing manager, I was subjected to. Now, I believe my mentor, my team leader at the time, he knew what he was getting me into, but we were dealing with sellers who were upset, sellers who were disappointed, However, what I realized is that when they called and they were frustrated because we didn't have showings, I knew that if I could communicate with them, if I could listen to what they were saying and hear their pain points, if I could reassure them, if I could show them that we are putting in the effort, that we're doing exceptional marketing on our end, that the market just wasn't receiving what we had. A lot of times, even in the 18 months of having, I would say 30 or 40 listings that we just could not move, not a single one of them canceled their marketing agreements. And so I saw that even in adversity, even in frustration, in anger, and in disappointment, if we listen to people and if we actually give them what they need and not what we want them to have, that they're willing to work with us. And so that was my very first education into this thing. And I would say about 6 months after being the listing manager, I said, okay, I'm going to go and get my license, but not so I could sell. It was just so that I could give better service to our buyers and sellers because, once you're licensed, you can say different things. And so it was really a way for me to honor and get and show respect and to add value to my mentor and the team so that they could be out trying to sell and do things instead of having to answer questions that because I didn't have a license, I couldn't legally answer.
What's so interesting about that time period, I started in the business 2005, and obviously, I remember summer 2007 was lean. That was a really tough time. And obviously, real estate agents, mortgage people, getting out of the business at that time. Here, you go into the business at this time, so you're smack dab into it. You don't know probably the heyday that they probably talked about of 4 or 5. Yes, 2006, I know in South Florida, things started to tip a little bit, started to come off the highs and all of a sudden, but now you're into, foreclosures and short sales and so forth. How did what was your attitude in taking that on? Because I imagine in the office, you had these experienced people that have seen it, through the times like we had in 21, in 4, 5, and 6. You come in and this is like just another day at the office. You got to deal with a short sale or a foreclosure situation.
So absolutely. Sometimes the best thing about ignorance is that we don't know what we don't know. Right. So I came in and all I knew was that I could not control. So thankfully, and I continue to say this, whether it was about my coaches, my family, my parents. So I've always been told to control the things that you can control and let the rest do what it's going to do. Right. And so I focus on, can I make sure that when we had just traditional listings, we operated in that realm, that I did what I could, that I got my license, that I was having intelligent and important conversations with sellers or buyers. When we transitioned to the foreclosure era, my mentor, my team leader, he was forward seeing enough. He had a coach, of course, and the coach was saying, even 2 years before the foreclosures really hit South Florida, we were prepared. We had already set up an REO division in our company. And fortunately, I was running the REO division, right? And I got to see this thing and to hear him when everyone thought that he was crazy, right? Getting REO and putting money for trash outs and all of this stuff aside and building this thing before we had REOs just locally. I remember the first REO unit that we got that was bank assigned, and we just started running a process. But it's because he was connected with people outside of our local area, someone from Las Vegas who had already seen this thing, right? And so that's where
Mhm.
I go back. And even today, I'm always looking outside of our market area to see what's happening somewhere that might be a precursor to what we're seeing right here. But for me, I think that was probably my best time in real estate simply because I was able to learn about a lean market. And then things took off because we had the REOs and the listings from the bank. So I got to see what a bustling market looked like. And then things level out all in about 2.5 years. So I really got to see a 7-year cycle in about 2.5 years because I came in when there was nothing selling to everything selling and then things slowing down and getting some short sales because we would see, since we had the REO listings, 40 or 50 offers a day come into our office. And so now I got really good at knowing the contracts and how to negotiate, looking to see what's the best option for a buyer or seller. So for me, that was when I was really educated. That's when I got a master's degree in 2.5 years' time, right there.
For sure. It sounds like you were very fortunate to run into the right people. Especially during that time. I mean, the forward-looking aspect of it, like I said, they knew people in Vegas who had already started to go through this process. So they're talking, and so that this individual, was connected. The broker, your mentor, you're following him, and you are fortunate. One of the things, we talked about pre-show. I always like to dig in because I really feel sometimes there's agents that, and you know these agents that could go and just do it themselves. It doesn't matter what broker they're working under, they're going to do it because they just have the skill set, whatever it may be, and the network to advance their business on their own. But for the majority of the agents out there, they really do look into what value add. They don't know they're looking for it. I think a lot of them don't know when they're out there looking at brokerages. The question I kind of, prepped you for before the show, whether you're a new agent and maybe you're in that licensing course now and you haven't chosen a brokerage to go with, don't know who you're going to go with, or you're an agent right now who, you know, we've come off the peak of 21 and 22, rates are higher. It's a little more challenging market. Maybe, we've got some different challenges today than just say 18 months ago. The broker's really not being that forward looking as you experienced, 14 years ago. How important can you give some tips to these agents of what they should be looking for, what kind of questions they might ask when they're out there interviewing brokers, and to remind them that they are actually interviewing the broker. The broker's making sure that you're not going to be poisoned coming in their office, but really they really want to hire as many able-bodied people who are hungry. But really, it's the agent who needs to interview that broker.
Absolutely. So fantastic question, Tracy. So the first thing that I always encourage everyone to start with is from one of my favorite books, Know Thyself, right? Know yourself first. I think that we have to know our personality traits. If you have not done some type of personality assessment, whether you're new in the industry or you're a seasoned vet, I need you to know who you are or what's your communication style. How do you respond to training or no training? What's the work environment like? Because too many times we are square pegs trying to get into a round hole simply because of the potential for more income, right? Or because one of our friends or colleagues, someone that we love and respect, told us this is where we should go. But ultimately, I believe first that we must know ourselves. And then in that knowing of ourselves, know what your goals are. Right. And so if you come in and for new agents, maybe you just need to go to a place where you need training, maybe you need leads, and then you need a success or accountability partner. Right. But you have to know what it is you're looking for, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to get it. And that's going to be confusion and chaos. So I believe that knowing what it is that you need and then asking the broker or asking the office manager, team leader, say, hey, who is or who has been where I am? May I speak to them? Can I have conversations? I think that unfortunately, too many of the conversations stop between potential agent and broker. I like for conversations to go from potential agent to broker to office manager, team leader, maybe a couple of agents in that office, because the reality is very rarely is it going to be one-on-one with that brokerage. We fall in love with the numbers or the writing or the policy, but the people make up the environment. When the yogurt hits the fan, it's not going to be something that's in writing or the split that's going to give you peace, right? It's going to be able to lean in, ask questions, and then know that you're in the right ecosystem. Now, here's where I would caution experienced or seasoned veterans to be cautious just a little bit, because too many times we think that what we were looking for, what was good enough for us 5 years ago or 10 years ago, is good enough now. Instead of us looking for an evolved brokerage, we're looking for just a different version of the same thing we're at, right? When really maybe your business, maybe who you are, your expectations have changed. Right? We see it in our industry when we see newlyweds, families, maybe they invest to retirees, but we think that we are the exceptions because we're the ones doing the business, when in reality, we're not. We know that if our clients or customers have these different stages, that our careers are going to have different stages. Maybe now you don't need a success partner. Maybe you don't need leads. Maybe you need a broker who's going to give you more exposure. Maybe you need a broker who's just going to just allow you to just do whatever you want to do and just stay legal, right? But this goes back to, who are you? What are your values? Because a lot of times I think that we look at the brokerage's values and we never assess our own values. And then they just don't match, right? But if we know who we are and then we really dive in, dig in, and ask some key questions, right? One of the questions is, and not to get too specific. So we're always talking about number of agents, size, right? I always, even as a broker or trainer and coach, I'm asking per agent production, right? That per agent production is a different number than office sales volume. What's your per agent production on average? What can a realistic agent with my years of experience? If the broker can't answer those questions, maybe you need to look at another broker. Ask them, because most brokers are going to say, for my agents who have 0 to 3 years of experience, this is their per agent production. But this is what we do in that process. From 4 to maybe 7 years, this is the per agent production that we see, because that's where you want to set realistic expectations. If I'm a new agent and I'm going into an office or interviewing with an office where they are seasoned veterans, and I hear per agent production of X number of coconuts a year, I'm going to say, yes, I can do that. But they've been in for 15 years. They're just bringing in a newbie and it sounds exciting. And then I think that something's wrong with me, or the broker lied when I don't hit that in my first year. So I think that per agent production based on the years in the industry, I'm always asking that. I'm always encouraging my agents to ask that question. And if they fit with the value and knowing what you want and what's going to work for you, you're more likely to succeed then.
Right. Now, we see in the industry, you know, agents move from one brokerage to another for whatever value add that might be what they perceive is there. As a leader, and you've been, with renown, running the renowned and having a team, there's a lot of these individuals that are going to be at the RE bar camp. I've had a lot of them on the show. Keep my questions up there on the screen there. A lot of these top brokerages or team leads on the show. What the main challenge that obviously they have is, obviously, if you want to have a team, retention and having some of those core people that have been with you a year, not that can almost duplicate what you do, so the team can grow, because you as a one individual can't oftentimes spread out. But if you start 2 or 3, 4 other people that are doing everything you're doing and have the same ideology, how have you been able to, cultivate that and renown and bring in people that are, kind of the skill set mindset that you have to be able to duplicate and obviously retain agents over time as a team?
So first, I believe it goes back to having, so we just have 4 pillars of success, right? Knowing that everyone that comes in, if you don't meet our basic 4, and then we have an additional 9, so 13 characteristics, and setting that bar. So excellence, service, leadership, and growth. Those are our 4 basic pillars for success. And everything that we do is filtered through there. And so what I make sure that I'm communicating all of the time, how can I make sure that I'm living up to excellent service, leadership, and growth? And I'm finding that people want to gravitate to that. But then here's something that I believe is absolutely valuable. So with all of the members in my brokerage, all of the agents and team members, what I have to be cautious of is that how I speak to or how I deliver on excellent service, leadership, and growth for each individual is going to be different, right? And so if I can speak excellence to one of my agents, it might sound totally different than to one of my newer agents on the team, but it's still excellent. So being able to have those relationships, being willing to not say, this is my blanket definition of excellence. That's it. If you don't meet this, then you're out. And then what I have found is that like attracts like, right? This is unlike a magnet, but like attracts like, birds of a feather. And so if we are operating in with our four basic pillars and then come in with those additional nine, I just know that we're going to have good people come in. And then Tracy, something that you asked, well, how do I retain? Well, the first thing that I do to retain is I let people know that I'm not holding them hostage. I was with my very first mentor for 8.5 years, and a lot of that time was behind the scenes, right? But here's why I was with him for 8.5 years, because he said that going in, his goal was to teach me everything that I needed to know so that I could open up my own brokerage, right? And so for me, that type of person, so we saw agents come and go. Now, did it hurt? Yes, when we poured into agents and they left, but he called his team that we had at the time a university. That this is where you come in, that you get everything you can so that if and when you want to go, it's going to be with his blessing. And so when it was my turn to go, and we still speak to this day, he was like, okay, but here's what I need you to do. When you go, I need you to go and represent this thing that we had very well. And so I'm just one of those people that I believe that if we try to hold on too tight, we're either going to squeeze it or kill it. And so for me, it just has always worked. I want to add value. People want to stay where they're valued. If you show people that they are valued, that you care about them, and that you care about what they care about, they're going to want to be here with us. And they're going to tell their friends, families, because this is the whole idea. We teach it to our clients and customers asking for referrals. We want to deliver great service in the transaction. Well, for my brokers and even for my agents, are you giving value to those around you so much so that they want to be a part of what you're doing? And so that's
That
my strategy.
mindset that he had is amazing. How at that time when you met him in 2007, how long had he been in real estate at that time?
So he had been in for 10 years because
Yeah.
he's 10 years older than me in the industry. And he even mentioned the broker that we were with at the time was his mentor, right? And
Mhm.
so I believe it's so important, more so than any tip, tool, technique that you can get, just being in the right environment. And because if you're in the right environment, I've found that opportunities seek the right environment. Opportunities are attracted to the right environment if you have the right people. And that's why when you ask about the brokerage and what questions do new or seasoned agents want to seek out and look for the right environment. Now, there is no, I don't believe, exactly right or wrong, but it might be right or wrong for you. So I knew what my values were very early on. And when I found that environment, act on it. So something that I just believe in and something that a mantra that I've lived my life by for the past, I'm going to say 20 years, is turn thoughts into actions faster. If I can turn a thought into an action faster and then stick out and see that action through to completion, then great things are going to come as a result of it.
I mean, his whole business acumen there on because I've heard some horror stories of agents leaving and they tell me, "Oh yeah, I left so," and they're talking trash about me or whatever. It's just a bad thing. And in reality, not everyone wants to be a broker and lead a team. Not everyone has the ability to do that, has that skill set. So I think the mindset that is the reality is most people aren't going to leave if you are feeling valued and in getting value out of that brokerage. They're going to stay there because they're of the environment that you're talking about. Yeah, if you have someone branch off, it should be a compliment. I'm a big John Maxwell follower, and obviously one thing he says is leaders should be building other leaders. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened to you and what happened to him because he was taken in and he became a leader and brought you on, made you, created a leader out of you, saw something in you and went with it, invested in you. And it should be proud of obviously where you're at today. I think it's a mindset. It gives you more peace because to be frustrated, angry because someone left your brokerage because for whatever reason that they just felt they needed to leave and go somewhere else. You're you're life is not long enough for that, you know?
It is not. So Tracy, something that I heard and then that I just embodied, it goes back to say, don't judge the quality of a leader by the number of followers behind him. Judge the quality of the leader by the number of leaders beside him, right?
Right.
And so we just know that if I can find great people, my goal, everything, even with world renowned real estate. So when I created my brokerage, the purpose was to be world renowned. I can't do that if I am not encouraging others to also be world renowned, to be the best in their lane, in their avenue. And so if I'm going to say one thing, for me to have integrity, I also have to live up to that. So even with myself, I've seen, and just recently, one of my agents started a brokerage, right? And it was in a different market, but it was with my blessing, knowing that when we came in, for instance, I'll just go ahead and tell everyone a requirement for my brokerage is that within 3 years of joining my brokerage, or within the first time that you're able and eligible for your broker's license, I need everyone to get their broker's license, right? And so part of that is so they can understand the business, so that they can really see what it is that I'm running. But then also, I never want anyone, because I think I'm great at what I do. I love what I do, but I don't want to hold people hostage. I don't want to wake up one day and not want to do this thing, and then I shut it down and someone be like, well, what are we going to do now? Right. I just believe that my mentor said, I always want you to be in a position so that you control your future. And what better way than when you tell people, I need you to get your broker's license. I'm not going to kick you out, but in case something happens. So now when I have an office full of broker associates, that says something about the caliber and the character of our office, right? It says something about our team and the agents when they say, well, hey, we're all broker associates here. We don't have sales associates. And then, of course, on the outside, people are going to say, well, what is it about Neal that he would have nothing but broker associates in his, environment? There must be something special there,
Mhm.
right? And so I believe that when I say it, but then when I show them, and then when I encourage agents, hey, let's take it a little bit further. I need you to know this thing that we're in. I believe that the broker training and course is far superior than the sales associate. And so if I really want you to have excellent service, leadership, and that last one grow, then I must encourage you, or this just isn't the right environment for you.
You have expanded now into speaking. I've dabbled in on your YouTube page there. You're putting out a lot of different trainings and so forth, and coaching. Of course, one of the things that and I mentioned in the intro that you like to work with minority owned businesses, helping them, you know, become profitable. So obviously they can stay in business. Tell us a little bit about that and what led you into that to expand from what you've been doing, which I'm sure you've been coaching and training agents for since 2007, to now take that actually into other types of businesses and obviously speaking.
Well, I listened to someone much smarter than me, and someone who, once again, saw something. So if you look at my life, my entire success has been when I was willing to receive counsel, wise counsel. So that my favorite book says, for lack of counsel, or like wars are lost. I want to win. So from Florida Realtors, from the local association, they were saying, hey, you have a gift. Here's what we believe. And the thought was planted. I took action on it. And then really as a result of it, everything changed, right? The whole idea of not only training and speaking, but knowing that now when I speak in front of a room of 600, 700, 1,300 people, I am now auditioning for that referral business coming back. And then knowing that if I can use my skills to help others, but then also because we're in business to be profitable, if I can help you, and in my effort of helping you, as you know, Zig Ziglar would say, you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And so as I'm doing that, the symbiotic relationship is that it just comes back to me. And then specifically with minority business owners of service-based business, is because I am one, right? That's me. And so, what's more authentic than if I can look and see what this industry has done for me and my family? When I say that we aren't wealthy, but we get to enjoy a quality of life that I never thought possible. And it's because, as you've heard here and everyone's heard, I've just had some really great people show me the way. And unfortunately, we don't have enough people who have someone willing to show them the way to even show what's possible, right? You mentioned when I went on lunch break from Terminex, I did not know that real estate was a possibility. I didn't know it was a real thing. I didn't know I could go in and not have to work hard, that I could work smart. So now having a responsibility and an opportunity to show others, if you come in here, if you follow a specific process, if you learn the right things, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be impossible. So it's going to be challenging, but the process is simple. And as minorities, whatever your idea or definition of minority is, I'll tell you that many times we've been ingrained with the wrong thing here. We see our counterparts thriving, and then we are running, trying to catch up, but we're running on a treadmill. We're doing all of the wrong things. That's all my coaches, my colleagues, they're giving me the things, the real things that have made them successful. And now there's a responsibility on me to go back and, what my mentor said, represent him well, making sure that I represent my parents and my original mastermind very well by doing everything I can to help others succeed.
As always happens in the conversation, that I guess I ask good questions because it always answers a lot of the questions that I have further down here. But I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper on some of the things that you have mentioned. I had the four principles was on here, which you already went into a little bit: the excellence, service, leadership, and growth. And you mentioned, in your, I don't know which social media or LinkedIn, one of the places, about white glove service, but also leading into, you have a focus in the luxury, or you do mention, you use the term affluent clients. In this grand scheme of things, there's at least in my opinion, and you can, agree or disagree, you build up to this level of service that you have. I think a lot of agents, in my opinion, the majority of agents, they are either, I don't want to use the word afraid, but don't understand that, like, doing something special to wow that client, right? The excellence in service. I think of recently, because my wife's an agent, she had a comment came back about how she went and was still picking the weeds, even though the house was under contract. It was a house that had been vacated because a person had passed away, was still picking the weeds in the yard up to closing. That's when someone actually notices that. That is, to me, that's taking it to another level. And someone reading that's going, "Oh my God, so what would they do for me?" Right? That type of thing. When you're trying to explain that to someone, because I don't think it just comes naturally to everyone. Some of us were brought up that way, right? To go the extra mile, open the door, hold the door open. I don't, in this day and age, not everyone does that. And let alone someone, when you hold the door, they say thank you. I mean, that's like, you know what I'm saying? That's all part of this mindset that you're, so tip a little bit as we finish up here in the last few minutes. The excellent service, leadership, and growth, the white glove service, and then how is that moving you into the affluent or luxury market? I was reading a little bit in your material that you obviously are thriving for, which in South Florida, yeah, you've got to go after, right?
Absolutely. Here's where it goes back to just the way I'm dressed, the way I say yes, sir, no, sir. The things that here in South Florida are taboo, right? If I say yes, ma'am to a lady, immediately she thinks I'm calling old, aged. And it's a sign of respect, not of age, right? And so I realized is going back, knowing myself, knowing that I like having intelligent conversation, knowing that I like to dress like this. This is my casual dress: bow tie, slacks, dress shoes in South Florida. So for many others, I'm a weirdo, and I'm okay because I know that I'm not for everyone. So what I did when I look at who I am, I said, well, where can I take my skills, my personality, and where can I deliver or offer it to individuals that are going to value not only what I do, but who I am. There is an audience for everyone right now that believes that what they have to offer is valuable. So you have to find who your audience is and ignore everyone else. So for me, I believe that we have an affordability crisis, especially in South Florida. However, that's not my audience, and I'm okay with that. Right now, a lot of others say, well, Neal, you should care about debt, equity, inclusion. You should care about affordability and attainability. I do care. That's why I give to our pack. That's why I support other agents. That right. But for me, my mindset is set for global and international, right? Sorry, global and affluent, global and luxury. My skill set, me being from Alabama here in South Florida, it's almost like I'm a foreign national. I'm in a different environment. So being able to communicate and understand and really dive in and love culture. I mentioned that I just love people. I'm curious. I'm inquisitive. And so also I want to help people see their dreams, see that they are living the lives that they want. Here's what I learned. The affluent understand that. As many negative stereotypes or ideologies that we have about the affluent, the successful, the rich, the luxury class niche, the reality is they're probably got where they are because they want to help people. And so if I want to be in an environment where opportunities are going to seek me out and I'm not going to have to fight and it doesn't have to be hard. And because I know you didn't want to say the word afraid, agents are afraid to enter that market. They're going to think that they are going to be seen as imposters or they're not smart enough. They don't have the right upbringing or background. For me, all of that stuff is a fact. Not smart enough, don't have the right upbringing, first generation realtor, so we don't have a lineage. But here's what I also know, that there was a possibility because people have said, I think you have something special. And so I just started to believe it. And as a result, I prepared myself for this thing. I just made sure that every negative stereotype, everything that could be a challenge, I just addressed it. And then I said, when my lack of sales experience comes up here, how am I going to respond? So just we do the same thing, thinking about our rebuttals and the scripts, the dialogue, having our toolbox prepared. I just got a shinier toolbox, put some better quality tools in there, and then I acted as if I belong. And then once I started delivering exceptional service, once I delivered on the experience. So you mentioned your wife going out and picking the weeds. Great service right now is not enough. Can't just be great at service. You have to deliver an experience. And so that's where I started setting myself apart. That I really started enjoying is how can I give people an experience so that when they think of Neal Oates, when they think of world-renowned real estate, when they think of that white glove service, when they think of affluent or successful, I have to come to mind, right? And all of that goes back to when I started the company. I could have, named my brokerage Neal Oates and Associates, but that didn't communicate what I wanted it to communicate. And so listening to smarter people. So if nothing else, I want agents to know, get in the right environment, have people who are smarter than you, that love you, that know more than you, that have done what you want to do, and they are successful for it, that they can actually prove and show that they've done this thing. If you do that, you're going to have better results.
I'm going to wound that up. I appreciate you coming on. I want to kind of finish with this thought. You're coming up to RE Bar Camp. Hopefully those that are coming are watching this through or get some of the clips and when they, how do I want to phrase it? What is the message that you are in your mind of, I imagine you're thinking about that you want to deliver when it's your opportunity? I don't know if is every one of you guys going to get up and speak a little bit? Cause there is like 15 of you speak for so many minutes, but what is the message that you want to get across coming and leave a memory of who Neal Oates is to this, 1,200 plus agents that are going to be there on the 26th?
So I think we're going to have like 3 minutes, right? From the main stage, then we'll facilitate our different things. But the main thing that I want to leave people with is a belief in their ability to have everything that they want and desire if they take this thing serious, right? If they are willing to do the hard, necessary, consistent, continuous work, right? It's going to require them to do something that the easy days are over. But I want them to be aware that while it might not be easy, it is simple and that it's possible. If people, I just think that like we just forget that it's possible for us. And I think that's the one thing I would want everyone to know, that not only is success in this niche, in this industry possible, but it's possible for you. It's easy for us to look over here and see our colleagues thriving and then start making excuses or telling ourselves a story why, yes, they can do it, but I can't. I just want everyone to know that if you see me on a stage, on a platform, in some type of media, then you can be in that exact same place doing what it is that you love, serving people. And if you serve people, you care for people, if you connect with them, we need that now more than ever. So just make sure that you know it's possible. If you do things the right way, if you're in this industry and you're serious about it, you're going to figure it out. And just make sure you surround yourself with good people.
100%. Neal, I love your story. It was excellent. I appreciate you coming on. And I got something out of our conversation today, some thoughts that are going through my head. Definitely look forward to meeting you face to face on the 26th. I'm going to have all your social media stuff in the show notes. I suggest to, check out Neal's YouTube page. As everyone knows, if you listen to my show enough, I think real estate agents are not utilizing YouTube as much as they can be to be that expert in their area. Take a look at what Neal's doing there. And again, look forward to meeting you on the 26th.
Can't wait, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great day.